Hello everybody, my name is Bill Hirsch and welcome to AWX on MiniShift. Today we're going to get some stuff done with AWX. This is the third and final part of a three-part series that I've been writing about with AWX, and today we're doing something different. We're going to have a little video, primarily because we're going to do a demo, and I didn't think this would come across very well with the written word. So sit back. Hopefully you will learn something. Before we get started, a little bit of shameless promotion on my part. So what you're looking at right here is bhirsch.org. I do write about various things, more than just Ansible. You can see them here, a few different things, and of course here are the other two parts of this series. And so let's get started. So let me explain the layout a little bit here, what you're going to see. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a provision of a Red Hat Enterprise Linux host. We're then going to install Red Hat JBoss EAP 7 on that host, and then finally we're going to deploy an application and take a look. So without further ado, let's get started here. So when you first log into AWX, you are going to see a dashboard like this. It's very dashboardy. You're going to get your basics, right? This is very high level, meant to really give you a quick overview of everything that AWX has been doing, the hosts it knows about, what inventories are there, projects, etc. But really the meat of AWX and Ansible Tower, for that matter, are really in templates. Templates are like a wrapper. That's how I think of them, at least. They're like a wrapper around a playbook. They give your playbook direction, such as it tells your playbook what inventory to run against, what credentials to use, what AWX project it's going to find the playbook in, and allows you to set extra variables, allows you to create forms called surveys in AWX, and also allows you to set tags and a number of other things. So let's take a quick look at one of those, just so that I'm not simply describing it. So as you can see here with a template, you're giving it a name, of course. You actually have job type selection, so you can run it. You can have it be a run template, but you can also have it be a check template. And what that would do is it would look at what it's about to do and make sure everything's cool before proceeding. Like I mentioned, you can set what inventory it's on. You choose which project you're choosing from, where your playbooks reside, which credentials to use, job tags. You can also set verbosity, and as you can see, there are a number of things. I'm not going to list every one of them. And of course, what extra variables? So what variables do I have to pass to this particular playbook? So that's an example of a template. Now, what we're actually going to be doing today, though, is a little bit different. There are two types of templates. There's a job template, which is what we just looked at, and then there's a workflow template. So workflow templates are pretty cool because it allows you to string a number of job templates together to create an orchestration, which is what we're going to see here today. So let's get right into it. I believe this particular workflow is going to take about 5 minutes. And rather than sit here and stare at it with you for 5 minutes, I'll launch it, let it start working, and kind of walk you backwards through what it took to make that workflow function. exactly which components I had to use. Okay, so let's do that. So you click on the little rocket to launch it, and you immediately will see this screen with a workflow template. And what this is it's telling you each step in this workflow. So step one is provisioning, and it's going to do that. Then it's going to refresh the inventory on AWX so it knows about that new host that we just created. It's going to install JBoss EAP7, and finally it's going to deploy the Ticket Monster app. That's just an app that we use a lot here at Red Hat to demonstrate JBoss. So, all right, let's start walking backwards. Okay, so let's go to step one. All right, where did I get my playbooks? So when you want to add playbooks, quote unquote, you can't see me quote unquoting, but I'm doing it. When you want to add playbooks to AWX, you add them through projects. And projects are pretty basic. Let's take a look at one of them. So a project is just really a definition of where it can find your content, aka playbooks. In this particular case, this is coming from GitHub, and here's the link to that project. And I have also set it to update on launch. So that means that anytime I can make changes in that Git project, and whenever AWX goes to use it, it's first going to update the project to make sure that it's picking up any new changes. So for example, and I'm not going to go through each one, but real quickly, the 3 projects I'm using, which by the way, feel free to use, fork, clone, whatever, are EC2 instance, this deployed JBoss app, and this deployed JBoss. Okay, provisioning, install, app deployment. There you go. Okay, so back to this. So that is projects. The next thing we want to point out are credentials, right? So you gotta tell AWX how it's going to log into things. How's it going to log into AWS EC2? How's it going to log into the machine that it's creating? Well, it's going to do that through credentials. And again, pretty simple. If you know SSH, you're going to understand credentials. Well, I guess that's true of a machine credential. But for cloud credentials, for example, it's not too complicated. I promise you it will be intuitive to you. Once you come in here, you add something, choose the type. This information down here is in context based on the credential type that you chose. And anyone that's worked with AWS knows that you're going to need an access key and a secret key. Poof, boom, you're done. Great. The other kind that I mentioned about SSH, this would be the credential that it's going to use to log into the machine it's creating. And again, by default, when you create an EC2 instance, you're going to get this EC2 user as a username. I also have an SSH key that I pasted the private key right here. And notice that once you save it, it becomes encrypted, and nobody, including the administrator, can ever pull that back out. So it's pretty safe. Okay. Finally, let's take a quick look at inventory. Now, I only have one inventory defined. This one is here by default, by the way. Whenever you install AWX, you get this. So I have this AWS EC2 inventory that I've defined. And again, this is pretty simple. This is a dynamic inventory. So over here, under sources, I can define the source. And you notice the cloud breathing, I guess, is a good way to put it. It's, that, well, you see it. So that means it's actually refreshing right now, which is good, because that probably means that we're on to that step of the workflow. And if I click on that, you'll see here that it has some definition, right? There's some stuff I set up. I set up the source, the credential I'm using. I have some tags here. I happen to share this AWS account with a lot of other Red Hatters, and I'm sure they appreciate that I'm not pulling in all their systems. So this is how I'm doing that. And let's cancel that. And let's go back and check for hosts. It does look like I have a host, which is hopefully the one I just created. And that is my inventory. So now if we go back, now I'm not going to go back to templates. What I'm going to do is go to jobs. So everything that you run on AWX, you're going to be able to see here. And we can take a look at this guy right here. Oh, and it looks like it's all done. Okay, so faster than I thought. I guess about right. It's about right. So here you're going to get a bunch of information, right? So for any one of these parts, or rather the parts of the workflow, you can click on the details to see exactly, well, should, there it goes, okay. So you can click on the details, and what that's really doing is drilling you down into another job. You could also get to this, well, we'll go back. You could get to this through the jobs again, and there'll be a specific job just for this part, or you can get to it through the workflow job. So you can see here, I have a lot of information. I can see when it started and stopped. I can see what machine credential I used. This extra credentials is the cloud credential I used. I can see what inventory it operated upon. And over here, this will look familiar to you if you have used Ansible. So this is going to look very similar to what you would get on the command line, just using Ansible core. Okay, so it did that. Then what it had to do is, like I mentioned before, it had to refresh the inventory so it knew about that new host. And then it went into installing JBoss, and it did all these things. Okay, and finally, it actually deployed the Ticketmonster app. Again, this is a pretty simple playbook right here. It's just really copying the WAR file, and it's deploying Ticketmonster to JBoss. So if I go over here, type much. I have a full-featured application running, and I'm starting the bot here just so you can see that this is more than just a simple HTML index. As you can see, it's adding stuff here. So basically in about 5 minutes, I just did an end-to-end deployment of an application in which I started with nothing. So hopefully you would agree that the combination of AWX and Ansible is a pretty powerful tool that can do a lot of things. If you can imagine it and you can do it on the command line, you can do it with Ansible and AWX. So I hope this was helpful for you. And again, check out bhirsch.org. Check out my GitHub. You can see I've got a bunch of repositories up there, stuff that you are free to reuse. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.